The reality is you can't form.
LeBron James's tirade against Austin Reaves seemed completely unhinged. The Lakers were up by 20, yet the King was furious. But that outburst was the eruption of a simmering conflict, a deep-seated tension between the two men with one explosive name at its center, Bronny James. To grasp the raw fury LeBron unleashed during a game that was already decided, you must first understand the most volatile subject inside the Lakers' locker room, the status of his son. Everything that unfolded on that court, the unfiltered rage and the hostile body language, was merely the visible crack in a foundation that had been silently fracturing for the entire season. And that fault line runs directly through how every person in LeBron's orbit treats his heir. Bronny James began the 2025 to 2026 season shouldering a weight of expectation unlike any sophomore in league history. Through 29 games, his stat line is almost invisible. 2.2 points, 0.5 rebounds, and 1.2 assists in a meager 7.3 minutes per contest. His shooting from the field has crept up to 40%, a significant improvement from his dreadful 31.3% as a rookie, and his accuracy from beyond the arc has risen to 40.7%. But the opportunities are so rare, and his playing time so restricted that these figures are just statistical noise, not proof of his NBA potential. He has started only a single game all season. By any conventional measure, he ranks among the least productive players on any professional basketball roster, a fact the world relentlessly reminds him of every single day. Draft analysts at ESPN and numerous league executives have openly called his selection a mistake, insisting that if his last name weren't James, he wouldn't even have a spot in the league. Former players like Kwame Brown have launched scathing public tirades claiming that high schoolers regularly dominate him in pickup games. The word nepotism has been so permanently fused to Bronny's name that it follows him into every arena, every comment section, and every media appearance. When JJ Redick offered a blunt on-air critique in January of 2025, noting Bronny simply played poorly, it was treated as the final confirmation of what critics had been shouting since draft night. The consensus was clear: this kid is out of his depth, and his only ticket to the show is the living legend sitting at the far end of the bench. Now try to see this through LeBron James's eyes. You are 41 years old, nearing the end of the most celebrated career in basketball history. And every night you are forced to watch your son endure a level of public scorn that would mentally break most grown professionals, let alone a 21-year-old who survived cardiac arrest just 2 years ago and is still fighting to rebuild his body and his confidence. He sees the venom in the comment sections, he sees the cruel memes, and he hears what the podcasters say when they believe he isn't listening. And through this relentless storm, his position has remained an iron wall of defiance both publicly and privately. My son earned this. He is developing. And anyone with an issue can answer directly to me. This is the piece of the puzzle the average fan misses. In the G League, Bronny's numbers paint a completely different picture, with stretches of 15 to 20 points per game for the South Bay Lakers. He posts strong assist numbers and shows improved shooting, suggesting a real talent is there when he's given meaningful minutes and a defined role. His three-point percentage in the NBA has actually hit 40.7%, a number that would be applauded if it came from any other second-round pick. But none of that is admissible in the court of public opinion, where the verdict was delivered the moment the Lakers drafted him. No amount of G League heroics or flashes of efficiency in the NBA can overturn it. Bronny James is a nepotism hire guilty until proven innocent, and the mountain of evidence he must produce to clear his name grows taller with every game he spends watching from the bench. This is the immense burden LeBron carries into every practice, every film session, and every single interaction with his teammates. It is the crushing knowledge that his son is being eaten alive by the narrative, a fact that everyone in that locker room, including Austin Reaves, is acutely aware of. The issue is not whether LeBron is sensitive about his son. That is a given. The real question is whether that sensitivity has begun to poison the chemistry around him. And based on the events of February 2026, the answer appears to be yes. This is why, on February 21st, 2026, when a viral post alleged that Austin Reaves and Bronny had a physical fight in practice, a confrontation where teammates had to intervene after Reaves insulted Bronny, it didn't matter that the story came from a parody account on X. It was completely irrelevant that the account's biography explicitly stated it was satire. It was of no consequence that Yahoo Sports and every credible journalist immediately debunked the claim, confirming that no team official or insider could corroborate any part of it. All that mattered was that millions of people believed it instantly because the tension at the heart of the story felt absolutely real. The idea of a Laker disrespecting Bronny and Lebron reacting with fury to defend him was not just plausible to the basketball world, it was expected. And that expectation wasn't built on nothing. It was forged over a full season of accumulated moments, small, seemingly minor interactions that, when pieced together, depicted a team walking on eggshells around the most powerful father-son duo in sports history. Because this is the truth that people, on the outside, fail to grasp when LeBron James declares that his legacy is his children. He isn't just reciting a rehearsed public relations line. He means it with every single fiber of his being. My legacy is my kids. That's the most important. My kids, my community, my family, that's all that matters to me. When a man who has ruled professional basketball for 23 years says that when a man proclaims his children are his legacy more important than championships records or anything else, you have to believe him, and you have to grasp what that means for every single person who steps into a locker room with his son. While the game of basketball had undeniably built him an extraordinary platform to chase his passions, it was only ever the stage. His children were the real story. And Austin, Reaves, whether he knew it or not, was about to walk directly into the path of that story on a national broadcast. The night it all came crashing down, February 12, 2026. Lakers against the Mavericks at Crypto.com Arena. The final tally was 124-104, a rout where Dallas had benched their stars. By the halfway point of the third quarter, the game was a blowout. In any normal world, the starters would have been resting on the bench by the 8-minute mark of the fourth, saving their energy before the All-Star break. But nothing about LeBron James's situation was normal. He was just 2 rebounds shy of his 123rd career triple-double. Achieving it would make him at 41 years old the most senior player in the history of the NBA to accomplish such a feat in a victory. For that reason, Coach J.J. Redick left his starters on the floor, a choice that set the stage for the chaos that followed. The cameras saw it all. They saw LeBron haunting the paint on defense, transparently hunting for easy rebounds. His entire posture sent a clear message to everyone watching, his teammates, his rivals, the coaches, the crowd, that this one rebound meant more than the game itself. He wasn't playing defense. He wasn't challenging any shots. He was planted beneath the basket, a statue waiting for a miss to fall into his grasp so he could secure his place in the history books. He just stood there waiting for the free board. On the other end of the court, he was forcing the issue. Offensively, LeBron defied all logic for a team with a comfortable advantage. He was accelerating the tempo, rushing through plays, trying to conclude each offensive possession as fast as possible just to race back and get into position for another rebound. Then it happened. A shot clanged off the iron. LeBron was perfectly placed. But Austin Reaves, playing with the same relentless energy that defined him, the same grit he's shown since the moment he entered the league as an overlooked nobody who had to fight for every second of playing time, darted in and snatched the ball from right over LeBron's head. He did it not once but twice on back-to-back plays. And LeBron's response was nothing short of an eruption. A timeout was immediately called to handle the meltdown. Players on the bench gestured frantically at the scoreboard, trying to show Reaves the stats LeBron was chasing. The coaching staff stepped in, and on the other side of the court, the Dallas Mavericks bench was soaking in every moment of the drama as it happened. They weren't just watching, they were openly ridiculing the scene. And the most prominent voice from that bench was a 4-time NBA champion. Klay Thompson could be heard yelling, "They gotta let Bron get one more board, man," before breaking into hysterical laughter at the sheer absurdity of it all. Klay Thompson, a man who won titles with Steph Curry, who understands precisely what championship basketball is supposed to be, was on the opposing bench, howling at the sight of a 41-year-old keeping his starters in a 20-point blowout just to chase a personal statistic. But the most damning scene of the evening wasn't Klay's mockery. It was what was unfolding on the Lakers' own bench. The camera found Bronny James, LeBron's own son, visibly struggling to keep from laughing himself. His lips were clamped shut. His gaze flickered from the court to his teammates, and he fought with all his might to stifle a grin as his father campaigned for a rebound in a game that was already over. For the millions who saw the clip online the next day, the image was devastating. LeBron's own son was laughing at him. The other team was laughing at him. The only person in the entire arena who didn't seem to grasp the joke was LeBron himself. This is where the Bronny element becomes so crucial, because the incident was never just about a rebound. It was about LeBron seeing his son watch him. The same son the internet dismisses as a product of nepotism. The same son who puts up 2.2 points a game. The same son who has to listen to strangers scream, "You don't belong here." Every single time he plays was now watching Austin Reaves take something from his father. And whether LeBron's fury was truly about the stat line, or if it was about something far more personal, something tied to the way Reaves's hustle unintentionally made him look weak in front of his son, is a question only LeBron himself can truly answer. But the video evidence is undeniable. The narrative that exploded online the next morning portrayed the moment as just one piece of a much larger puzzle, a fixation on stats that had come to define LeBron's season. His 10-point scoring streak, one of the most enduring in league history, had become an obsession earlier in the year, and the way it ended had prompted an emotional display that many critics saw as telling. The case being built against him was both simple and powerful. At 41, LeBron James was no longer competing for rings. He was competing for records. And anyone who stood in the way of those records, even a teammate, even someone he claimed was a dear friend, would feel the complete and total weight of his anger. LeBron is every bit as obsessed with stats as his biggest fans are. That's the entire foundation of their argument, the numbers. In the end, the critics had reached their unshakable conclusion. Nothing. Not the triple-doubles, the scoring onslaughts, or the shattered age records could ever alter the one debate that mattered most to LeBron James's legacy winning. The rebound at last settled into LeBron's hands. He secured the triple-double with a final line of 28 points, 12 assists, and 10 rebounds, earning a thunderous ovation as he was finally subbed out of the game. The milestone was in the books, but the narrative had already been poisoned, and what Austin Reaves said later would only pour gasoline on the fire as the entire locker room turned against him. One by one, his teammates drove home the gravity of what he had nearly cost LeBron before Reaves exposed a truth that revealed everything about the invisible hierarchy in that room. The man who confronted him wasn't LeBron. It was everyone else acting on his behalf without a single word from the king himself, a silence more powerful than any command. Within the court of LeBron James, the entire team instinctively mobilizes to safeguard his interests, his numbers, his milestones, and his legacy, all without him ever having to utter a request. This is the world that shapes Bronny James's development. It is the very ecosystem Austin Reaves must survive in every single day. And it is the critical backdrop you must understand to grasp the explosive events that followed the other side of the story. If you've made it this far, you probably picture the Lakers locker room as a toxic pressure cooker fueled by ego, relentless stat chasing, and a fragile deference to LeBron James. And frankly, based on the viral clips and the scathing commentary, that would be a perfectly logical assumption. But there is a deeper truth to this story, a truth that the outrage machine has no interest in showing you. The highlight reels, the YouTube dissections, and the fabricated tales of practice brawls have zero incentive to reveal what really happened. Because the reality of the bond between LeBron James and Austin Reaves is nothing like what the algorithm wants you to believe. It is not even in the same universe. When Austin Reaves first set foot in Los Angeles in 2021, he was an undrafted kid on a two-way deal from Newark, Arkansas, stepping into a Lions den with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwight Howard. He was by his own account petrified, but in his very first practice, Reaves blew past Rajon Rondo on a break and whipped a no-look pass to LeBron for a dunk that electrified the entire gym. Reaves would later confess that, with that single instinctive play, it felt like the weight of the entire world had been lifted from his shoulders. That was the moment LeBron knew this unheralded rookie from nowhere could be counted on, and from that day on, their connection only deepened. By the 2023 playoffs against Memphis, the on-court trio of LeBron, Reaves, and Davis was dominating opponents, outscoring them by a staggering 14.3 points per 100 possessions. They had become one of the most overpowering three-man forces in the entire league. Reaves transformed from a mere hustle player into a starting guard, a legitimate offensive threat, and one of LeBron's most trusted allies on the floor. He has openly described LeBron not just as a great teammate, but as a great person and a good friend who never once treated him like a disposable asset despite his humble beginnings on a two-way contract. And his rapport with Bronny has been just as genuinely supportive. In November of 2025, Reaves made history as the first player since the year 2000 to assist on alley-oops to both a father and his son in NBA games, setting up LeBron for a slam in one game, and then Bronny against the Miami Heat in another. This is not the action of a teammate harboring bitterness towards a player he feels is undeserving. This is the mark of someone who is actively invested in helping the young man thrive. When LeBron was sent down to the G League's South Bay Lakers for a rehabilitation assignment and Bronny was named a starter in his place, Reaves met the bizarre situation with authentic excitement. He called the moment awesome and fun, seeing Bronny get the start while his legendary father was technically assigned to the developmental league. There was no trace of sarcasm, no hidden barb, no subtle jab at the wild idea of an undrafted rookie son, averaging just 2 points a game being handed a starting role. He was simply a teammate who found the entire father-son NBA saga to be genuinely cool and something worth embracing. He even playfully suggested that LeBron himself should get some minutes in a G League game. It was a comment taken exactly as it was meant, a light-hearted joke, not the passive-aggressive dagger the internet desperately wanted it to be. And LeBron's own reflections on his son, shared during the very same road trip that sparked the controversy in Dallas, paint a picture of a man whose priorities are far richer than the one-dimensional stat-obsessed caricature his critics have crafted. Maverick's game controversy reveal a man whose priorities are far more nuanced than the stat-chasing caricature that critics have constructed. When Bronny enters the game, the crowd chants his name and everything. Do you ever just let yourself slip into being a dad for a moment and soak it all in? He confirmed absolutely that in front of 20,000 roaring fans in the heat of a professional basketball game, he becomes a father. LeBron James watches his son step onto the court and allows himself to be flooded with the emotions any parent would feel. It's a wave of pride, of pure joy, and of an overwhelming hope for his son to succeed in a league that has questioned his right to be there from the very night he was drafted. That is not the mindset of a man consumed by box scores and personal accolades. That is a father trying to articulate the surreal experience of sharing a professional arena with his son, while the woman they both love watches from the stands. And that is the part of the LeBron James saga the algorithm will never promote, because humanity doesn't generate outrage. It doesn't spark fiery debates. And it certainly doesn't entice anyone to click on a video plastered with red arrows and shocked face emojis. After that very same game against the Mavericks, the epicenter of all the manufactured drama, Reaves was interviewed. He was asked about LeBron's historic night, and his answer was not the carefully worded response of a man seething with resentment or navigating tension with the team's undisputed leader. With the game in his hands, LeBron was simply being LeBron, orchestrating victory with the quiet authority he always possessed, and the team instinctively fell into formation behind him. The praise came from Austin Reaves, unprompted, a raw acknowledgement of the King's influence, offered without any need for a leading question. It was a simple, unfiltered testament to how he truly perceived the power dynamic within the team. When pressed to define what made a 41-year-old LeBron so different, Reaves gave an answer that felt less like a media statement and more like one friend speaking candidly about another. But the truest revelation emerged when the question turned to LeBron's relentless energy and his day-to-day mindset. That's when he shared a story that would never feed the outrage machine or grace a dramatic thumbnail, a simple, overlooked bench conversation in Minnesota. It was the kind of small, insignificant moment that escapes the headlines, but exposes the depth of a relationship more than any viral clip ever could. He confessed his thought, musing that if anyone in the world of basketball had earned the right to have a bad day, it was him. He knew that if LeBron ever woke up on the wrong side of the bed, the world would probably just have to accept it. With that, Reaves was dismantling every false narrative built against his teammate. He was tearing down the very caricature the content machine had meticulously constructed around LeBron all season. This was the man they painted as obsessed with statistics, the man they accused of fostering a toxic environment for his own son, the supposed tyrant who attacked any teammate standing in his way. Yet according to the one person who shared a locker room with him day after day, that man simply didn't exist. He explained that LeBron never faltered. He consistently arrived with a smile, approached the game with the highest level of professionalism, and meticulously cared for his body. And in January of 2026, when LeBron's own agent Rich Paul suggested trading Reaves, LeBron shut it down immediately, telling reporters that AR knew exactly how he felt and stressed that they spoke every single day. This was not the action of a man who would turn on a teammate over a single rebound. This was the action of a man who viewed Reaves as indispensable to his professional life. When asked to describe his team's chemistry directly, Reeves's response was a quiet deconstruction of every fabricated tension narrative. He offered an answer that systematically dismantled the rumors of conflict that had been built around the Lakers roster all year. He spoke of a deep connectivity, a locker room where every player genuinely cared for the others and wanted nothing more than to see his teammates succeed. And that desire for mutual success extended to everyone. It included Bronny, it included Lebron, and it included Austin Reaves himself. The alleged practice fight was a fabrication. The on-court frustration was real, but it burned out in 90 seconds and was extinguished with an apology and a standing ovation. The supposed tension between LeBron and Reaves over Bronny, the very narrative this entire firestorm was built upon, has no basis in any verifiable documented reality. What is real is a 41-year-old father fighting to play alongside his son, a teammate who has stood by them from the very beginning, and an internet that will invariably favor the most clickable story over the true one. And whether that truth is inconvenient for you or not reveals far more about your own perspective than it does about anyone inside that Lakers locker room. So this is where the story truly ends. Not with an assault, not with a brawl, and not with the locker room meltdown promised by every headline and thumbnail. The truth is much quieter, much more complicated, and it possesses a humanity that the internet, in its endless hunger for drama, will never have the patience to understand. LeBron James is a 41-year-old man attempting something unprecedented in the annals of professional sports. He is trying to compete at the highest level alongside his own son, while the world scrutinizes their every move, judging in real time whether either of them has earned the right to be there. Austin Reaves is a 27-year-old who clawed his way into the league undrafted, earning every single minute of his career. He now must navigate the complex dynamics of a locker room where the sport's most dominant figure is also the father of its youngest player. And Bronny James is a 21-year-old man who hears the word nepotism more than his own name, who survived cardiac arrest just 2 years ago to return to the court. He is forced to forge his own identity as an NBA player while a global audience relentlessly tells him he doesn't belong. None of these men are villains. None of them have turned on each other. The fight in practice was manufactured by a parody account. The rebound incident was a 90-second flare-up that ended in mutual respect. And the animosity between LeBron and Reaves over Bronny, the central pillar of this entire narrative, is a phantom existing only in the void. It lives in the gap between what truly occurred and the version the algorithm required you to see to keep you engaged. Now you are aware of the difference. What you choose to do with that knowledge is entirely your decision. Thank you for watching, and please check out the other content on your screen.